Good day, fellow fans of superheroes. Today is Saturday, so that means I'm going to be talking a little bit about a superhero animated television series. Today, I will be talking about the episode of Batman the Animated Series titled Be a Clown. This episode starts with Mayor Hill promising that Gotham will be safe, which is maybe the dumbest promise someone could make. Right in the middle of his speech, some kind of car chase happens and literally drives right through where he is giving his speech. Batman comes in and stops the criminals and leaves, and then Hill announces that Batman is just as bad as the criminals, and he specifically mentions the Joker. The Joker, naturally, is listening, and he decides that he's going to pay a little visit to the mayor just to mess with him a little bit. We find out that the mayor has a son, Jordan, and the mayor is throwing Jordan a party, but it's really just a chance to cozy up to the political bigwigs of Gotham. We see that Jordan has a fascination with magic, and this leads to him being astounded by one Jekko the Clown. Turns out this Jekko character is actually the Joker in disguise. He gives Jordan some advice on how to be a great magician, which includes run away. Then Jordan gets mad at Dad and runs away. Jekko then leaves a stick of dynamite on the birthday cake, and party guest Bruce Wayne realizes that Jekko is the Joker and air quotes accidentally shoves the cake into the swimming pool. We then see that Jordan snuck into Jekko's van and wants to apprentice under Jekko. The rest of the episode is basically Batman trying to rescue Jordan, and Jordan quickly realizing that Jekko is no joke. Remember in my review of the first episode, On Leather Wings, when I mentioned that it was neat that the series was able to pull a small portion of Batman Year One and use it without doing a full-on adaptation of the story itself? For the first time, I noticed that this episode does something similar with a scene from The Dark Knight Returns. Remember in the portion of The Dark Knight Returns when the Joker is trying to escape from Batman and he's on the roller coaster and there are these exploding dolls that he's handed out to all the kids at the park? Now remember in this episode when Joker and Jordan are on a roller coaster cart and Batman is on another one trying to catch up to them and the Joker is throwing exploding dolls at him? I think it's really great that these guys were willing to pay homage to that story in a cartoon that I was watching when I was 4 years old. And The Dark Knight Returns, for those who may not know, is not exactly a story for 4-year-olds. So it's kinda neat that this is doing that. Almost subversive in a way. Anyhow, I just thought it was worth mentioning. Moving on to the episode itself, I like that this episode gives us a little bit of dimension to Mayor Hill. As of this episode, we have only seen Hill in On Leather Wings and Pretty Poison, and he really didn't do a whole lot in either episode. In the first, he gave Bullock permission to hunt down the Batman, and in Pretty Poison, he gave a speech. Those things could have been done by anyone, really, and while I'm not going so far as to say that Hill is indispensable in this series, now that we know a little bit about him and he's even had his own character arc, I won't be finding him quite so forgettable as I did in his previous 2 appearances. Speaking of character arcs, this episode features 2. As I mentioned, Mayor Hill goes through one. At the beginning of the episode, he is basically a jerk of a father. He uses his son to push himself politically, and doesn't seem to care about what his son wants. This arc is pretty typical, and we don't actually see it happen. It's pretty easy to accept that if a father, even one as preoccupied as Mayor Hill, loses his son, that he'd pretty quickly decide to turn things around when and if his son comes back. So this isn't really anything to write home about. I mean, it's not like it's badly done, but it's not really a spectacular turn of events either. The other character to get a character arc here is Jordan, the mayor's son, and this episode focuses on him quite a bit more than his father, or even on Batman. The episode starts with Jordan basically hating his father and wanting to be a magician when he grows up. He then runs away, and we see that he's pretty uncomfortable with Jekko almost immediately. And who wouldn't be? Joker isn't exactly a warm host for his guest. By the end of the episode, after Batman has saved Jordan, we see that he's ready to reconcile with his father, and it's happy endings all around. I wish that Jordan's discovery that Jekko isn't a nice guy had been a slower one that he comes to realize over the course of the episode. Instead, the very first magic trick that Joker tries to show Jordan is swallowing a trick sword, and Jordan says, nope, that's too dangerous. It really isn't, you know, at least not compared to drowning Batman in a water tank and exploding dolls being thrown at him. It'd have been nice if, for example, Jordan was willing to try the sword trick, but then he was less willing to do some other kind of trick, then is flat out unwilling to stand by as Batman drowns. Oh well, I guess you could say Jordan also gets an arc in that he seems to think that Batman is no good, just like his father believes, and by the end of the episode he trusts Batman. So yeah, this is present in the episode, but I would have liked for this other arc to have been a little bit stronger. I do find it a little strange that the Joker has featured in 3 episodes before some villains even show up once. Aside from Man-Bat, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and Scarecrow, we haven't really had many villains yet. I get that the Joker is seen as Batman's greatest foe, and I've enjoyed a couple of these episodes with the Joker a great deal. And it could be my hindsight going all 2020 here, but if I was watching these episodes when they were coming out, I'd really be anxious to see characters like Clayface, Mad Hatter, or Killer Croc. Pretty much everyone knows that this series made Mr. Freeze into a character that he is today, but is that also true for some of the other villains that we haven't seen yet in this series? Like I say, it could just be that I'm remembering how cool some of these episodes were, so I'm wishing that we could see some of them instead of seeing yet another Joker episode. This is not to say that the Joker is boring or that I wish he wasn't being used, but I do think that people behind the show could have distributed his episodes a little more evenly across the series. Although I do get that working on a show like this would be hard, and sometimes you just want to get an episode out because you have to, and you might not be giving much thought to whether you've used this character twice already. Overall, I'd say this episode is pretty good, but it's not perfect. But despite its flaws, I find it to be very enjoyable, and very memorable also. This is one of the episodes I remember watching when I was very young, and many of the scenes in this episode have stuck with me to this day. And that's about all I have to say for this episode. I hope you will be back next weekend when I talk about an episode of the Legion of Superheroes, and the week after that I will be tackling both parts of the 2-part Two-Face episode. I am doing both episodes at once because I don't really want this series of reviews to last 160 weeks as I review it, and so anytime there is a 2-part episode, I will go ahead and review both parts at once as if it was one long episode. But before that, I encourage you to check out my channel throughout the week, as I will be putting up various videos of different things. And if you enjoyed this review, I hope you will comment, share, like, and subscribe. I'll be seeing you later, so until then, have a good day.